Montel Jackson here. Check out Sconni Sports this week.
This week on Sconni Sports Show, I'm your host, MD Lovelace.
I'm Jeff Bryce.
This week we have a special guest in the house. He is none other than Pittsburgh Steelers middle linebacker Levon Kirkland. Levon, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So we're going to start at the top. Pittsburgh Steelers middle linebacker. What was it like playing in Pittsburgh?
It's amazing. It was amazing because I was playing for one of the best organizations in the NFL, and I love that it had a history of great defense and especially linebackers. Playing in the midst of Jack Lambert and Jack Ham and guys like David Little, Greg Lloyd.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a tremendous linebacker lineage, and it was a lot of fun. It really was. I like the challenge that it presented. You had to show up every day, and the cool thing was you had some great professionals that showed you the way of how to play in the NFL and how to be a football player but a professional. So Pittsburgh was a very good experience for me. I love the fact that the fans love the defensive side of the ball, and that's not like most NFL teams. Pittsburgh lived and died by defense, and I like that fact that being a linebacker was probably one of the more important positions according to the fans, and I really took a lot of pride in playing that position. So it was a lot of fun for me.
Well, we were familiar with one of your former linebackers. They mentioned a great NFL. In fact, in trying the Pro Football Hall of Fame, that was Kevin Greene. Spent some time here in Green Bay.
Kevin Greene,
Yeah.
Definitely intensity. You can see where it comes through that Pittsburgh defense for sure.
Well, Kevin had been in the league a long time before he really came to us. I was pretty young. I was in my second year when he first got there, and that's my first year starting. But Kevin brought a lot to the table. He really fit in our scheme as far as a rush linebacker. I think with the Rams, he was a 3-4 linebacker. Then they tried to put him at defensive end. But when he got to us, I think that his career really blossomed again. He kind of revived himself. And it was great playing with him because he taught me a great deal about watching film and taking the game seriously and understanding my opponent. And he was also a great encourager for me because I didn't play the position until I got to Pittsburgh. But I remember Kevin telling me, he's like, man, you got everything. You got it all. And that gave me a lot of confidence going into that season and earning the starting job. So, Kevin, man, I was right there when he went into the Hall of Fame. It was an honor for me, and I'm glad one of our guys got in. It was really cool.
So they listed you at 275. How far off was that number, Levon? Beyond?
It fluctuated. Probably at my best, I played at 280.
Okay. Nice.
So you have to realize, though, I think a lot of people get caught up in the weight. They get caught up in the number. But I would say defensive end, outside linebacker in college. In high school, I played basketball. I ran track. I ran the 400, the mile relay. I high jumped 6'4", and I was like maybe 200 pounds back then. So really the position, I was big for the position, but I was a really good athlete. I was probably a better athlete than most middle backers or inside linebackers. If you look at the film, you can see me covering guys downfield. I could stop the run. I had great lateral speed, great hips, great feet. And that kind of carried on as far as the weight was concerned. It wasn't like I came in 280. And plus, in my position, at the strong inside backer position, you had to take on guards and fullbacks, so you had to be a little stout in there. So I really believe that my weight wasn't out of control. It really actually worked in my favor a whole lot. And trust me, the Pittsburgh Steelers wouldn't have put me in there if I couldn't get the job done. So
No,
I got the job. I can say I at least got the job done.
19 and a half career sacks, 11 interceptions, 18 forced fumbles with 9 recoveries. I mean, yeah, you were definitely no slouch to the game, and definitely a favorite of mine growing up as a kid. So that's why I said.
Yeah, definitely mine too.
Yeah, I get every big guy in the world as they see me as like, man, I had hopes for playing linebacker. I saw, I think a lot of big guys had some hope of playing a position that, normally, being that size, you'll be on the line of scrimmage. And I just thought that I thought that I was just unique at that time. And I think if you were one of my coaches, you saw that I worked really hard and I played really hard, and I was productive, and I got things done. So Pittsburgh really kind of looked past that. They did. They just like, this guy can still play. Doesn't matter.
Well, it proved itself, too. 2001 going to Seattle, 2002 going to Philly. Obviously, everybody knew the spark was still there. And, I mean, he made a hell of an NFL career with, 10 or 11 seasons in there. That's hard to do, nonetheless, at any position. But being, quote-unquote, the bigger guy, I mean, that's impressive. There's no doubt about it.
And then also you're talking about a very mentally and physically demanding position.
Yep.
A position that, I made the calls, I called the signals. You direct guys. You're kind of like a manager out there. And then plus, not only are you covering downfield or you're covering scat backs out that's coming out to the flats, you got to stop the run. You got to take on guys. So I thought for as physically demanding as the position was, I did a good job. I did my job. And fortunately, too, we had some really good players on that defense. And everybody did a great job, especially when we were in our heyday and we're really listening to quarterback. And I thought that we were innovative at the time. Don Capers and Dick LeBeau were really, really before their time. And I thought also they made I thought they made the game fun.
Yeah.
You get the blitz and you get to be aggressive, and it wasn't so much we're reacting all the time. I think on defense, there is a part in there where you have to react, but if you can be more proactive, you can make things happen.
Definitely. So you mentioned big games, big opportunities for you. I think you might already have a hint to where I'm going to go, but Super Bowl 30, the shoelace, man, that was one of the most impressive things I think I've ever seen of how it was. And you guys had it in the bag. Walk from that play for you. And then, of course, the next few moments, walk me through your mental psyche, being that, again, mental psyche.
Well, going into that game, Matt Millen, a linebacker, but, a little bit before my time, but he won 5 Super Bowls, and he got word to me that he thought I was the dark horse of the team. I played with some great linebackers. Those guys were getting a little bit more attention, but my job was a little bit more grindy. But he told me that I was seeing the right things, but I wasn't quite trusting it. And he told me to trust my eyes. And that clicked in my mind. I was like, it was my aha moment. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to trust everything I see. I'm just going to play ball.
Right.
And I went in that game, and I just had that mentality that I was going to trust what I saw and just fly around. And it happened. And even before that play, when I tackled Troy Aikman, I was like, it was a blitz that he called. I'm like, okay, I'm about to make a big play. And honestly, Emmitt Smith got me at the last second. I just kind of dove over him.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, if he would have been like a second late, I would have destroyed Troy Aikman. I would have blew him up. I really would have. Yeah. But it still was a good effort play, and I got enough on him that the momentum was able to take him back. And I'm thinking to myself, great play. And I really thought after that play that we're going to win it. I really believe that we're going to win it. Unfortunately, we threw an interception that cost us. We still probably could have stopped him for 3. Didn't work out that way. But that game gave me the confidence going into the next season that I wasn't just only a good player, but I had the potential of being an all-pro and a great player. And that year I ended up being in the Pro Bowl. The next year after that, became an all-pro and really got the respect of a lot of people in the league. And you got to think about the linebackers we had. Those Junior Seau and Ray Lewis and those guys. It was hard to make it to the Pro Bowl as a Pro Bowl linebacker. So to beat Junior Seau out that year was huge for me.
One of our questions: if you weren't playing for Pittsburgh, where else would you have liked to have ended up in your career?
Ooh, I don't really know. It's such a process that you don't really have any control of where you're going to play. You really kind of leave it up to organizations to draft you. So honestly, and I tell people this story, when I went to visit Pittsburgh, that's the place I wanted to. After I talked to Coach Kyer, that's the place I wanted to play. And then when the draft came that year, before the 38th pick, I went into my sister's bathroom and I was like, they're going to pick me. They're going to pick me. They're going to pick me. And I walked to the kitchen table where the phone was, and I sat there.
Wow.
I was like, they're going to pick me. That's probably not logical to do, but I just believe. I was like, they're going to pick me. I sat in that chair, and the phone rang. I picked it up, and it was Pittsburgh Steelers, and that was how it happened. So I guess I forced the universe to make sure that Pittsburgh.
I wasn't playing for Coach Collar.
It was great. Coach Collar was such a young coach.
Oh yeah.
When he first came in, that he was it was like almost playing for a college coach. The intensity, the rah-rah.
Yeah, that intensity is unreal.
Yeah, so as a young player, you like it. I don't know if as an older player, probably not so much. But I think as a younger player, it was fun because you make a big play. He was the first one to come congratulate you. And and the cool thing was it was genuine. It wasn't fake. That was who he was.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought he did a good job with he pushed you, but he wasn't a jerk about you. I don't really remember him calling out players. He would talk to you like you're a man, and as a professional, you can appreciate that.
Yeah, try to motivate. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be able to, just like in any industry, you got to be able to relate to your workers. If you can't relate to your workers, and you can't, if you don't take ownership, then the job is not really going to get done. So he did a great job of not only motivating us, but Bill was smart enough that, he would always tell us all the time, you can't get too high with the highs, can't get too low with the lows. And although he was emotional, he was emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
And we were too. And it showed the years we were there with him, and we won a lot of ball games with him. So I really appreciate him as a coach. He was a lot of fun to play for.
Are you surprised he hasn't got back into coaching?
Oh man, I was, because I thought maybe he'll come back and just need a little breather.
Yeah, me too.
But you never know. I don't know exactly where we went to. I know his wife died from skin cancer.
Oh, okay.
And I think probably he had a television gig and he didn't have all the pressures of being a head coach, the ups and downs of winning. He could just sit back and really critique someone else. So I think that he enjoyed it. He didn't want to come back, and he did. But I guarantee there was a lot of people that probably called him and were probably begging him to coach there.
I thought for sure he would.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite moment as a Pittsburgh Steeler, or even in general in your NFL career? What are some moments that really stick out for you?
Well, I think, the Super Bowl was probably the top. Playing on that big stage, everybody's watching, and having the opportunity to win the biggest game in professional sports was definitely up there. But I just love the atmosphere in Pittsburgh. There was a lot. It was just fun because the fans they had so much energy, so it gave you energy. But I love playing with the guys that I played with. We're a pretty close team. We were just kind of, we kind of felt our way through this, to the Super Bowl. It was kind of a growing pains for us. But I love playing with the guys we played with and being able to go out there and play the linebacker position where guys like I said, Jack Lambert and Jack Ham played. It was cool, to start another defensive tradition as Blitzburg. You had the steel curtain, and to be able to have a cool name like Blitzburg was awesome.
Yeah.
Historic moments against the Packers. What moments stand out for you? Of course, the Wisconsin fans here want to know, what are some moments that maybe stick out to you in the Green Bay games that you had?
Well, the one game that really sticks out is we went to Green Bay. I think it was Christmas Eve. I want to say it was Christmas Eve.
Yes, yeah.
And it was a battle, and you guys really need that game. We didn't need it so much.
The anti-thick pen?
Yes. And you still want to win.
Right.
So we go down. I'm thinking, like, man, we're gonna spoil this party for them. And he caught it and he dropped it. And it was like the craziest thing because this kind of stuff happens in football, but being able to be there at the legendary Lombardi Field was amazing, especially with the weather. And, you guys had Reggie White, Brett Favre. You had a team, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
A great team. And we battled that game. I remember, battling and, it was really on the line for you guys, and we almost came out there with a win. And that would have been our ninth win because that year we started off 3-4.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Cowher turned it around for us. And we were looking after that 3-4, he basically said, we're starting the season over with. It's a new season. And we went 1-0, 2-0. We went all the way 8-0 until we played you guys, and we ended up losing the game. But it was a fun ride. It was a lot of fun. And I was also excited because I got to go home for Christmas for the first time in like almost 10 years because in college we always go to the bowl game, and this was the time that we could actually go home. So I was super excited to go home for Christmas and see my family. So that was a memorable year for me. It really was.
And we talk about all your accomplishments. I mean, how many years as a Pro Bowler, but recently named into the Hall of Fame for University of Texas. What a great honor that was.
Well, it's I have to tell people this all the time. It was the Ring of Honor.
Yep, sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. People get it, it's kind of ring of, so it's kind of, I can see where people get confused. But no, the Ring of Honor at Clemson University is the highest honor you can get as a student and athlete. The coolest thing is they reveal your name on the stadium. So I think there's maybe a few guys that are on the stadium, and it's not always about your athletic accomplishment, but what you did off the field. And so I'm really proud about that. But the thing that I'm super proud about is my family, my mother and father, get to get their last name on something like that.
Yeah.
And I just remember my father telling me that, in his days, they couldn't, black folks couldn't walk through the front door. We couldn't drink from the same water fountain. Just ridiculous stuff back in the South and other places where racism just played a part. And he never thought one of his sons would go to Clemson. So for the last name to be on the stadium is the best thing for me because it's not just me, but it's all the Kirkland family.
I noticed you also played with ex-Packer Wayne Simmons. How did you know him well, and how was he?
Yeah, Wayne came to Clemson a year after me, and we had a great linebacker group. Matter of fact, our backers, my junior year, we were ranked the number one backer unit in the country. And we were loaded. So we had all our outside linebackers. We played in the 3-4. So all the outside backers got drafted, first string and second string guy. Wayne was behind me, but he was competition. But we had a really good relationship. We were different people, but we had a great relationship. He kept me laughing. He was one of the funniest, smartest guys that I knew. And I'm telling you, talking about one of the strongest guys at the point of attack, going against tight ends. He was amazing.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart when he passed away. But
yeah.
I know Wayne very well, and he was a brother of mine. I still miss him to this day.
Yeah, he is a beast. Him and Brian Williams in the middle for the Packers. Oh.
Yeah. Wayne Simmons was. He was a guy that ran like a 4.5 at the combines. He was. At that time we had guys that were just very athletic. We were almost all the same in a way because we were probably very light coming in, 200 pounds or so. But Clemson philosophy was they didn't care about your size. They just wanted you to be if you're a good athlete, they develop you. And that's how they kind of looked at it. So it worked out because, we became monsters as we got older.
Yeah.
What was your toughest running back you've ever faced, whether it be college, pro career? Who was the guy that you were like, man, this guy again? Who was that guy for you?
I'll have to say Barry Sanders.
Okay. Because
Barry, people like to say he was a small back. I think he was a short back, but he wasn't small. This guy was well built. And he had the balance, the legs, the breakaway speed. He can make you look embarrassing. He can embarrass you. So I would say Barry Sanders is probably at the top. You still got guys like Emmitt Smith, Curtis Martin. There's a bunch of great backs back then. And in the league, they ran the ball so much, so the backs were the featured guys. But Barry Sanders, to me, was top-notch, probably the best that I ever seen run the ball because you can hold Barry down all game, and then he can break an 80-yard on you. He can end up.
You know that all too well.
He can end up with 150 yards on you. Most backs, if you can get to them early, you can kind of shut them down. You really could. But Barry wasn't like that. Barry can break loose at any point in time in the game, and he was a dangerous back. He was one of the backs that I kind of like, man, I have to really bring it today because I knew how great he was. So Barry Sanders is at the top of my list.
Nice. In terms of opportunities in your life, things that have happened to you since football, what have you done since ending your career there in, Seattle, correct?
It was in Philly. After that, I ended up being a recruiting coordinator for the Clemson University admissions department because I didn't really want to go into football right away, but I ended up coaching high school as I was doing that. Then I got an opportunity to be a head coach at a small Christian school, and that was a lot of fun. Then I had an opportunity to coach college ball, so I coached at FAMU, which is an HBCU in Florida. Then I was able to do a 2-year fellowship with the Arizona Cardinals, coaching outside linebackers. And after I finished doing that, I just kind of chilled for a second, and then I went into what I'm doing now, which is working for a nonprofit, which really focuses in on student athletes, and we call it the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. But our program, basically the one that we really hold our hats to, is the Bridge Builder program, and that program is basically geared to educate, empower, and encourage student athletes for success in school and also in their life endeavors. And South Carolina has an issue where we're like 43rd in the nation as far as college and career readiness. So that's where we step in and we help these student athletes navigate their futures.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's one thing I always liked about you. You mentioned it earlier, the opportunity, the things that you do on and off the field. I mean, willing to give the shirt off your back to the next person. So, I mean, it's pretty amazing to see the opportunities that you've had and what you've presented, not only just through natural talent, but like you said, hard work. And it sounds like that really got instilled through, again, your father, it sounds like, and then also as you carried it through other guys, like you said, Kevin Green, for example.
Well, yeah, I had some amazing people in my life. My parents, I have to mention my high school coach, because I really feel like if it wasn't for my high school coach, I would never went to college and played ball. He really encouraged me to commit myself to the game and to commit myself to my education as well. And they had me prepared to go to Clemson. And then when I went to Clemson, you have people in your life that pour into you and they encourage you. And I think a lot of times you have to be able to understand when somebody gives you a compliment or give you a gift. And I had some times where people were saying, even when I was a redshirt freshman, one of the assistant coaches came to me. He was a grad assistant, actually. And he's like, man, if you keep working the way you work, you're going to be one of the best linebackers here. Most people, when they get a compliment, they usually shrug it off and say, oh, I don't think so. They downplayed it. But I was like, okay, cool. I'll be one of the best linebackers to play here. And you would have never thought that way back then, but I accepted that challenge and took it and just blossomed with it. So, yeah, throughout your life, you always have people that will help you along the journey. And I just want to be that. I want to be that. I want to be a big advocate for student athletes. I don't want people to go through the struggle. I want them to understand and realize that they can do whatever they want to do. So I want to be there. I want to be that network, that support system that I think everybody needs.
Nice.
How is the current, obviously, situation now affecting what you do? Obviously, it's something we have to talk about because it's everywhere. I mean, there's no avoiding. How does that impact your position?
Well, I mean, it's not easy, but I think you got to look at it as maybe an opportunity too. We normally do a Hall of Fame ceremony through in April, and it, usually like 300 people, and we honor guys who've done very well as far as football is concerned. If you're affiliated with South Carolina, so if you're born in South Carolina or you played at one of those schools in South Carolina, or even if you coach at South Carolina, there's a thing we call a Hall of Fame ceremony. This year, we really couldn't have a Hall of Fame ceremony, but what we could do is we could advocate for student athletes. So what we did was a summer series, and we were able to nominate 10 student athletes who are doing tremendous in the classroom and had a great college career. We had a bunch of guys who were going off to different colleges in South Carolina playing, and we had like a little ceremony, and when we gave the Bridge Builders Excellence Award to that one kid, and it went off amazing. And I think we put our messages out there about joining the movement and educate, empower, and encourage. And it was a great ceremony. It was maybe 30 people at the most there, but we were able to turn something that would normally have been a negative into a big-time positive. And we actually gave our Blanchard Rogers Award to Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence actually did a video for us thanking us about receiving that award. That thing might have got, I don't know how many views. I mean, it blew up. And so although not having our ceremony, which, we thought was our big thing, we were able to really clean up our message, make sure we were going in the right direction. and we pulled off something that I thought was really great. I thought that really was encouraging. And so that shows you that although this is going on and nothing's really certain, that this was a really good program, and I was really proud that we did it.
Nice.
In terms of your day-to-day life after football, or even going back to maybe even your younger years, who is the guy that always kind of stuck out to you, or who's the modern-day version of you now as well? I guess a two-part question there.
Ooh, I don't know. I like the Wagner kid out of Seattle.
Bobby, yeah.
Yeah, Bobby. I feel like Bobby is one of the best linebackers in the league, and he can do it all. He can stop the run. He can good pass coverage guy, great motor. I like him as a linebacker. I really do. I feel like the kid from Buffalo, I think his name is Tremaine. His dad played
Edmonds.
Yeah, I like him too.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a player for a long time. He has the size. His dad was an amazing tight end at Maryland. And I just like the guy. I've really been paying a lot of attention to him. And I like the Bush guy from Devin Bush maybe from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I like him too. I think he's a little shorter, but he has a motor and he can get it done. So I always try to keep an eye out for linebackers. You don't really get to see them all or really pay attention to them all. But I definitely like Bobby Wagner. The guys that with the Dallas Cowboys, those guys are really good linebackers also.
We're going to take our first commercial break. Here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Looking for more energy? Need the best advice on nutrition that matches your needs? Look no further than Just Max Fitness Nutrition and receive 15% off using the word Sconni all this week. For all your promotional product and outdoor game activities, check out Just the Three of Us. They're on Facebook today.
We're back today with our special guest, Levon Kirkland. Levon, who was your biggest influence as a player growing up?
My biggest influence as a player? I had a guy that played with me. Actually two guys. I would have to say DeMonte Dawson. He was a mentor to me, even though he didn't know he was a mentor to me. I've just watched him and the example he set on the football field and in life. Also, Greg Lloyd, man. Like, you had to – I know back in that NFL, you really had to earn the respect of the players, not so much the media or even the coaches. You had to earn the respect of the players that you were playing with. And Greg Lloyd really demanded that you play to his level. If you didn't play to his level, he was not going to allow you to be on that team, on that defense. And I am not kidding.
Jordan.
Yeah, he's kind of like the Michael Jordan. He was terrifying in a way that he played with the intensity and a level of violence that if you didn't match it, you were not worthy.
Yeah.
And that's what me and Chad Brown, we were always thinking like, man, we got to really play on Greg and Ron Woodson, because back then those guys would just say like, we're not playing with him. He's sorry. Don't put him out there. So you kind of had to play on that level. So that was interesting. It really was.
I always loved his face mask. That was sweet. The big
Yeah,
ball.
he just had a demeanor about him. He really did, and it was real. It wasn't anything fake. It was, some guys play fake tough guy. I call them television gangsters, but he was the real deal. He was for real.
Who would you call out as one of those television gangsters? Let us in on it.
Who I would call a television gangster?
Yeah, who was like your guy that you've seen on the field that you're like, man, this guy's not what I thought. You know what I mean? Like, who's the overhyped guy that you faced?
Let's see. I don't know. I can tell you one guy that I thought was kind of like that. I liked the guy, but I thought he talked a little too much sometimes. He wasn't really that big of a deal. I don't know if you remember a wide receiver from Philly, Freddie Mitchell, I think was his name.
Freddie Mitchell. We know him too well.
I thought Freddie was more flash than substance a lot of time. He wasn't terrible, but I just never liked the guy who talked about who he was, because it was a promotional stunt. And it was, he's trying to brand himself. See, like, I didn't have a problem with a Deion Sanders who purposely branded himself,
But also,
commercialized it, but he backed it up. He was a
it
real
up.
deal. So you couldn't really fault him. Freddie, I could say this, that Freddie was, before, the mass media and the social media, Freddie was trying to do his best to be one of those guys.
Yeah.
And, sometimes the media likes that kind of stuff. They like that guy. They want you to be flashy.
yeah, they like that.
And I hope you guys don't mind this. I think especially the African-American athlete, they want you to play into the stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do, you will get a lot of press from them. They like guys who are outspoken until they say something and they're like, oh, did they back off of them? But they like guys to be like that. They like guys to be talkers and just the image that they always think their guys are. I would have to say 99% of the guys are not like that. They're awesome human beings, but you always get the guys who are a little flashy, a little talkative, and those are the guys they like to promote. And I just didn't like Freddie being that guy. He wasn't that great. He wasn't starting really, and he was like self-promoting. I didn't like that guy, but I guess people are saying that's just the business of it. And I'm sure right now everybody's trying to brand themselves, but I just didn't like the guy. And it wasn't a lot of those guys back when I played, but he was definitely one of those guys that I would call a TV gangster.
And speaking of guys that are well known for sometimes the wrong things, there's two names that come up, both on the diva side of the ball, which I always consider
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown, and then Terrell Owens. How would you rate those into those categories? Like, what are your, being a Pittsburgh Steeler, how do you think Antonio Brown would have fit in on your team, or would he have been kicked to the highway way before that even got to that point?
The one thing that guys respect the most is production. So if you produce, you could be a talker. I don't think he could have got away with some of the stuff he got away with, because guys would pull him to the side and talk to him. Like I said, I think those guys are great players. And, I think a lot of times you don't really see the real them. I'm sure I can speak for Terrell, that Terrell was a guy that was really liked by his teammates. Guys really liked him. I think what you saw on television kind of gives you the wrong feel of Terrell. I heard when he first got to the league, he was like the nicest guy you could ever meet. I don't have a problem with Terrell, because I think as a teammate, Terrell was a really good teammate. As AB, I'm only seeing him on television. I don't really know him that well. I mean, his antics I don't really approve of what I see on television, but I don't really know him either. Right. So I have to be fair and to say, I really don't know the guy. I know what's presented. I don't know. I like to give players the benefit of the doubt. I know that Terrell Owens, deep down, is a really good person, a good player, works hard. You really never heard any trouble from him. So, honestly, I have no problems with Terrell. I don't know AB well enough to really comment on it. I didn't like that he did the Facebook thing, in the meeting. I didn't like that. I mean, but sometimes teams create those monsters too. So if it wasn't allowed, I mean, it must have been allowed a little bit. They must give him some leeway. And some guys, you tend to want to give the better players leeway, but sometimes they have to be kind of railed in too. And I think they created that monster a little bit. And sometimes when you do that, you get the monster. You want a cobra for a pet, you better know that he's already a cobra, and under certain circumstances, he might bite you. So you have to be wary of that. And I think sometimes, you can talk about some players down the line that, people knew they were cobras, and they invited him up. They invited him to the house, and then they get upset when they bite the kid. Can't blame the cobra so much.
Yeah, I don't see him getting away with my helmet's too tight crap with Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green. And, I mean, the guys you played with, I'm pretty sure would have ate him for lunch if he would have tried that.
Yeah.
It was a different NFL back then. I mean, and I think you're right. Those guys would have confronted him in some kind of way. They would have went to him and they would have told him the deal. And, I mean, that's what it was back then. You really – I tell folks that you really had to earn your respect among the locker room, no matter what the public saw. If the players didn't respect you, you just wasn't respected. I mean, so those guys, I think now guys are a little bit more, with the young guys, they let them in a little bit more, there's not, I don't think you have to go through that respect period that we had to go through. So it's a little bit of a different NFL. Young players now, you think about television, these guys are more popular than the guys that are playing in the pro when they're in college. Mm-hmm. They're like, you see those guys a little bit more than you see the guys who play in the league. Yeah. So those guys come in, I'm not saying they come in probably thinking they're better than what they are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's all you see it now even with agents. I mean, guys asking $5,000 for an autograph appearance, never even touched the NFL field. And we've seen time after time guys come in the league and busting. Look at Ryan Leaf, for example, is one that I was and Tony Mandrich, the offensive lineman. Yeah. You would have just him in a second. I mean, just terrible guys.
I mean, yeah, but see, Tony came in with so much hype. I mean, he was doing steroids, and I'm going to tell you, when you come in with that kind of hype, you put a target on your back. Mm-hmm. Not on your back, you put a target in front of your chest. And he's playing left tackle against some of the most ferocious pass rushers in the world. Yeah. And everybody's talking about what a monster he was, a can't miss. It goes to tell you that sometimes you just don't know. Yeah. And he was hyped up. I mean, and you looked at that Sports Illustrated picture, you're like, okay, I can see the hype. Right. But in the NFL, that's a real man's game. You have to prove yourself every time you step on that field. And they're going. If you don't prove yourself worthy, you will be exposed.
And if you a guy like Jamarcus Russell too.
If we would have Mandrich, we could have ended up with Barry Sanders. So how do you think us Packer fans feel here, Levon? That was terrible.
I'm telling you, everybody's human. Sometimes you fall for the hype. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you fall for the hype. You can't miss things like that. I mean, big, strong guy. But I look at Mandrich, and I saw 1 year production. Mm-hmm. And I think anybody can have one really great year. Or maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe he had more than that. Yeah. But you didn't know the understory. You really have to do your work, as a scout to know that you're getting the right guy, but still it's not an exact science. So sometimes you hit home runs and sometimes you hit pop flies.
Definitely. You talked about a cool subject, and I always like talking to the guys that played in the 90s, early 2000s versus now. Talk to me your realm. So if you were in today's NFL, how would you even feel? I mean, you're not even allowed to hit a quarterback anymore. I mean, it turns into a game of two hands versus the ferociousness and the intensity that your guys showed, with the Steelers. I don't even know if your Steelers would be what they were in today's NFL because of those rule changes.
Well, I think you take away the art of defense. We all know it's an offensive game, and we know that it's about getting butts in the seats. It's about getting ratings. And what probably gets ratings is not a 7-6 great football game, but a 48-45 game. And people want to see more offense. I like our period. I don't have anything against the NFL now, and things always evolve and they always change. I like the football in the 90s because I felt like you could do some things on the defensive side of it that was intimidating that would really affect the offense. You can't do it now.
No.
And so it's tougher to play defense. It's an unfair advantage when you're playing defense now. You're shackled a little bit more. We knew back in the day we can hit the quarterback a little late, but it would affect him as the game went on.
Right.
Some guys like Brett Favre, it didn't matter. Brett Favre was a tough guy. It didn't matter how many times you hit him. But most quarterbacks do not like to be hit because they don't really get – even in my day, you couldn't really hit them in practice or anything like that. So the only time they really may get hit is in the game. So we always kind of try to send a message to certain guys. And we may just give them a little shrug, but that's the gamemanship of it, I thought.
Was there?
I think now you can't really do that on defense as much, but I think we would have done it anyway. With the attitude we had, we would have done it anyway, so it would have mattered.
That check back over the NFL, huh?
Well, the referees can't make every call. They're not going to call it always.
You haven't watched games in the last couple of years. It's been terrible. Flag City.
Watch the what?
What I said, you obviously haven't been watching too many Packer games because it feels like, boy, oh boy, we have some of the most flag games in the NFL.
Oh God!
It would be a time where defenses will come back and just catch up to the offense, despite the rules. There's going to be a team that's going to, and everybody will jump on the bandwagon. Trust me. It's just like the Patriots going back to the fullback. At one point in time, the fullback was not important, and then when you start running down somebody's throat, and it's like, wow, that's really effective. But defense will catch up. It really will.
Who is their quarterback you played with or that played against? So just you hit him enough times, he's like, I'm done. Like,
I think most quarterbacks were like that.
Oh, really?
I can say the only quarterback that could take a licking and keep on ticking was, I feel like Brett Favre was that guy that could really do that. Maybe there were some other guys that could do it, but I know if you hit, guys like, and I'm not saying they're not tough guys, but there's some guys you can hit. I bet you let's see, who's the guy? I think if you hit Peyton Manning enough, he may fold that 10 in. And I really respect Peyton Manning.
Oh, yeah.
But, Peyton Manning is like LeBron James, man. He's not going to get those – they're not going to let you touch him.
No, yeah, it seems like he bailed out as
he
soon
was
as
in the
I was near.
90s, but he was kind of, going into the new era. I kind of wonder if he gets hit a lot, what he'll be like, but evidently he's a tough quarterback too, so it's hard to say who would do it, but I think there's some guys in the league that would have folded their tent.
Yeah.
Who is the one quarterback that you just like every time, man, I just want to destroy this guy? For us, we have to hear him as an announcer. It's Troy Aikman. I mean, that would be my hands down.
We didn't play Troy Aikman enough, but, Troy was such a big deal that you wanted to get after him. I don't know. I was more about running backs more than quarterbacks so much. But
Who's your I gotta eat him up guy? Like, who's that running back then?
I like hitting Eddie George.
Okay, really?
He's a big
Because
dude.
I get to face him twice. He's a big guy. And I remember when he first came in the league, the first 2 games, I think he had over 200 yards.
Wow.
And then when he played us, he realized what the NFL was all about. Eddie still was a tough guy, no question about it. But one of my teammates, Briston Buckner, was like, because we have the same colors as the Iowa Hawkeyes,
Mm-hmm.
he was like, "You're not playing Iowa." So I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah, but Eddie was a tremendous player.
So we're all about letting guys kind of let loose and talk about things they want, not really editing you guys. What was your weirdest moment that you had being in the NFL, or what was that? Did this really just kind of happen moment for you? Or things like you would have never expected to happen during your NFL career?
Wow. Let's see. I thought it was kind of surreal for me, kind of weird that I was calling signals. I was calling the huddle because I never did it before until I got there. And I didn't really know how to do it. And I remember Bill Cowher telling me that you have to take over the huddle. And there were guys in the huddle that I'm like, man, these guys are older. I was kind of a guy that, really respect the older guys, but to be so young and to be not only so young, but to be up front and to be in a position of leadership like right now. And it was intimidating at first, and then I kind of grew into it. But, when you're calling the signals, man, you got to be I felt like I got to really prove myself, to be able to call the signals and bark at guys and tell them where to go. I got to earn their respect. So I thought that was kind of weird for me.
What about just crazy, zany, like maybe the dumbest thing you ever saw in an NFL game? Like, what was that weird moment for you?
The weird moment was when we played Detroit on Thanksgiving, and the ref got the coin toss in overtime wrong.
Yes, I do.
I thought that was the weirdest thing. Like, it's like they've done that like a million times, and nobody's ever really. I'm not gonna say nobody, but I mean, it was just weird that he got that wrong. And back then, overtime, you basically get it. You get a field goal range, which is nothing for field goal kickers. They make that field goal, it's over.
Yeah.
So you don't have a chance. So it was like a death wish when the coin toss and it didn't go in your favor because you knew the offense will always take the ball, and now is really getting field goal position. So that was the weirdest thing that I saw. He just really jacked up that coin toss. He really did.
On your team itself, who was your prankster? Who was your goofball kind of guy on the squad that you had?
The funniest guy that we had on our team was Freddie McAfee.
Okay.
He was the funniest guy. I was kind of known as a little bit of I was more sneaky with it. I was more of a prankster, kind of sneaky with it. The weirdest guy on our team, had a bunch of those guys.
Yeah.
Gosh.
What were some of your legendary pranks or gimmicks that you did, guys? All rookies, or did you kind of anybody was a free victim if the opportunity was right?
Mostly the rookies kind of got it, but sometimes you would play little jokes on the vets. It just all depends. I remember one guy got into a fight with a rookie, and he got the wrong end of the stick. He thought he could take the rookie. The rookie actually got him. So I got a wrestling poster of Lex Luger having somebody in a torture rack, and I put their pictures in it, and everybody just kind of died laughing because he got beat up by this rookie. I would imitate guys, if they wore something loud or, they wore something crazy on the plane, we would just kind of get on them. The one thing I do remember is we was on a flight going off to a game, and we had a guy on the team who didn't have a beard at the early morning meeting But then when he came on the plane, he had this what they draw in kind of beard.
Okay.
They call it a Beijing.
Okay.
And we rode him all the way to the end of that flight. We were talking about Teddy Pendergrass. Everybody who had a beard, we referred to him as that guy. So you have a lot of fun on the plane and the locker room. There's so many things, probably a lot of things I've forgotten, but there are some things that did kind of stick out.
Nice.
So on a serious note, the social justice, procedures going forward now with the NFL, the guys taking the knee. What are your thought processes on that? As obviously a black man in the community, having played the game, what is your approach that the NFL's taken so far, and how do you compare that to the stance taken by, say, the NBA or the Major League Baseball? How do you think the NFL is going to compare with that moving forward?
Well, I think it's something that you really can't ignore. I think especially after the George Floyd assassination. Yeah. I think it's taking. I think people are taking maybe a deeper look, and that people are understanding that it wasn't ever about the flag. I think people lost focus, and what I think Kaepernick was trying to tell people about the police brutality, and people just kind of ignored it, and you're not being American and all kind of foolishness until something like that happens. And it makes you take a closer look that, wow, maybe maybe we need some improvement. You could be right and wrong too.
Yeah.
And I think in America, we've been so USA that we haven't really taken the time to think about that. Man, there's been some real big injustice done. There's some systematic things that are wow. They're not for everybody. So I think hopefully now people are looking at it and saying, like, how can we make this really true democratic system, democratic country, by really being about the people. It's the people that's important. All this other stuff is a distraction. All this rhetoric, all this, politician, all this political stuff, campaigning stuff, it's all about the people and who really is for the people. And how can we make this better? Because our country is not perfect. And we're not the only, and I think people got to get this too. We're not the only free country in the world. Yeah. There's a lot of other free countries. And honestly, we may want to take a note for them, those countries, because they're doing a better job of freedom than what we're doing. We're talking about freedom and we're the best country ever. And we are a great country, but we have fallen short. And we're still falling short. And it's 2020, and we're still, and color is still a big factor. It shouldn't be a factor.
Yes.
We should have been past this a long time ago. But we're not. And that ugly wound is just festering. It's like we never took care of it the way we should have taken care of it, and now it's coming back. Yeah. And it needs to be a change. It really needs to be a fundamental change in this country for us to get better, where we're supposed to be. The ideal of the United States of America is not there yet, and we got to keep making noise until it's where it needs to be.
Yep.
On some big political news today, too, you mentioned a change, the new running mate, if you haven't heard, for Joe Biden. The first woman of color being nominated as a vice presidential candidate. That's a huge news, and I think a huge step forward. And like you said, you hope that's something that can be taken seriously. Obama was doing a great job, and now you finally get the first female.
I think we should be at a point where race, gender doesn't matter. As long as you can get the job done. I'm not saying I'm sold, but man, why shouldn't there be a woman's vice president?
Exactly.
And who cares what her race is?
Yeah.
Honestly, Like, who cares? If she can get the job done, then she can get the job done.
Right.
And that's the most important thing. And I think if we can get rid of some of these traditional ideas that we have, some of these beliefs that we have, then we can move forward. Until we get rid of some of this traditional and some of the stuff that we hang on, we're never going to get over it, man. We never are going to get over it until we really face the facts and be real about it. We're not good. I think some people are scared. They think that their past sins are going to catch up with them, and they're going to be overthrown. And and as I think sometimes, it's about keeping wealth within the small group. Not letting anybody else in. This country should be about the people.
Yeah.
And until it's about the people, then it's going to be corrupt, unfortunately. And this should have happened a long time ago. I know it happened in, I think, Jimmy Carter's vice president. I know that he had a woman as a running mate, but it's going to be a day when a woman's going to be vice president or president. I mean, women are probably smarter than men anyway, in a lot of ways.
My wife is.
Great. I think it's great news. I think we'll see what the people think. But I think until this country really gets back to really caring for its citizens, regardless of race, of gender, or sexuality, we're going to be going back through this pattern over and over again. It's going to keep going on. And it's a cut that we just never, ever heal. We never addressed it. And now everybody's in shock and awe that police brutality, is real. There's some people that knew that a long time ago. So I feel like there is a change coming in this country. I think there will be change. I feel that this country should be about the people. And until we get to that, then we're still not where we need to be.
Yeah.
All right, last question. Final thoughts or advice that you have for young athletes or just people in general that want to be, the next Levon Kirkland? What advice do you have for those people?
Gosh, be the next Levon Kirkland. I don't know. You want to be better, but no. I just believe you got to have a vision about yourself. You got to know your self-worth. Understand that nobody's better than you. There are people. I think sometimes we see people from a knee perspective, like we're on our knees and we're looking up to them. But I really feel that everybody has value, and if you can understand that at a younger age, that's even better. And I know sometimes people are in situations that are tough, and it's hard to be positive. But just know that you're worth it. No matter where you come from, no matter what kind of home you come from, man, that you're worth it. And I hope that there's more people that are going to encourage those young people to understand that they're worth. And that when you know your worth, go out there and earn your worth. Go out there and do what you need to do. Go out there and I know people say work hard. Do what you got to do. Work hard, be positive. But I think it's all about having a great attitude. I came from a really small town that nobody could probably fathom anybody going to the NFL. But I had that, and I saw that vision, and I just kind of stuck with it no matter what. I had no doubts about it. And now we've had four guys from our small town four other guys from our small town that's been into the NFL. So there's nobody out there who can tell you what you can and cannot do. So I think it's all about having a belief in yourself. And if you don't have a belief in yourself, fake it till you make it. But, it's going to take hard work, and it's going to take, it's going to take good mentors. And sometimes the mentors don't have to necessarily be, at your home in your neighborhood. Man, there's a lot of good books out there. You can read about a lot of people that have done some great things despite where they come from. So I say read a lot, get as much information as you can, and ask the right questions.
All right.
Levon, I want to thank you for taking the time out to
Thank you.
It was definitely educational, fun, and just overall good time. As someone that respected you not only as a player on the field, but a player off the field, I definitely want to thank you for your time, and hopefully we can stay in touch, and I wish you nothing but the best.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Let me know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
So that was Levon Kirkland joining us here on Sconni Sports Show. Sorry the episode went a little longer than we thought, but hey, anytime we can get someone like that has just words of wisdom. I mean, Jeff, I love it. Every episode we have just seems to keep getting better and better and better. And these guys, we tell them maybe 20, 25 minutes, and here's Levon give us an hour and a half of his time, man. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was nice to talk to you.
I mean, yeah, the guy's an NFL great, in my opinion. Ring of honor there at Clemson. I mean, everything can epitomize from, the player standpoint, the personal standpoint. The type of guy that, doesn't really have that gray area. Levon's not the guy just like he was on the field. He's not afraid to talk about anything, but he gave us so much other stuff. I think it was just, it's good for a different episode. Maybe we bring Levon back. I think he's the guy that, you and I, if we wanted to, could talk to this guy for hours. I mean,
oh yeah. Kind of like Montel.
What's that?
Kind of like Montel.
Yeah, definitely. Montel's still our snap opener. Every time we have for Facebook or for these videos, he's our opener. Be more exciting as we go through to get more of these players on, or former players or family members and things like that going. And for those who didn't know, Levon is actually cousins with Devin Still, who also was pretty well known across the NFL. More so for his daughter having battled cancer as well. It just seems like that's one of those awful diseases none of us can get rid of. And again, like we had talked about off here, it's definitely one of those things where no one's untouchable. It can impact any of us at any time. So coming up next week's show, we have a couple more guests coming in. I'm not going to reveal them just yet, but it's awesome, Jeff. This show has been incredible so far, and we're only going to keep getting better. I'll be leaving for Tennessee in a couple weeks. I'm going down to the hot zone, so we're going to pre-record a couple of these upcoming shows. So if you guys see that and some information seems outdated, I apologize, but tough nuggets. That's just how it's going to be. On behalf of myself, I'm MD Lovelace.
Good job, Bryce.
We'll see you guys next week.